For everyone on Facebook watching right now, thank you all for joining us. We are live with the Washington Retail Association with Mike Johnson and Rose Gunderson.
Mark Johnson, but yeah, I'm close.
Sorry. Going over some important information about retail reopening for phase 2. It's important to know that right now we are still in phase 1. So everything we talk about, all the advice and best practices and compliance discussed today is going to be specific to phase 2. And feel free to submit questions either in Zoom or in Facebook, and we will get to those once we have wrapped up with the presentation. And I just want to say thank you to our program partner, STCU, for transitioning from our in-person workshops to these virtual sessions that we've been offering lately. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speakers today. Mark Johnson is the Senior Vice President of Policy and Government Affairs for Washington Retail Association. Mark is a Seattle native and a 1983 graduate of Garfield High School, as well as a 1987 graduate of Central Washington University, completing a degree in political science, a minor in economics, and an emphasis in communications. Johnson attended Central on a partial scholarship. While at Central, Mark served as the Associated Student Body President, advisory member for the Board of Trustees, president of Phi Beta, I'm gonna say this right, Lambda Business Club, chairman of the Washington Student Lobby, and sergeant of arms for the Alpha Kappa Psi Business Fraternity. After graduating, Johnson served on the CWU Alumni Association for 10 years, 2 as leadership president. In 2000, he was presented the CWU Presidential Excellence and Leadership Award. Johnson has addressed 7 CWU graduation ceremonies. Mark joined the Washington Retail Association in January of 2005 as the Director of Government Affairs. In June of 2006, he was promoted to Vice President. Mark is responsible for the strategic development of the government affairs activities of the Washington Retail Association and the Government Affairs Division's activities. He leads high priority issues for the association, such as taxes, unemployment insurance, healthcare, privacy issues, and the handling of consumer products. Mark is also the lead staff for the association's Small Business Committee, Political Action Committee, and its Government Affairs Committee. Johnson currently is a member of the Council of Washington Business Organizations, Association of Washington Business, the International Council of Shopping Centers, Enterprise Washington Political Oversight Committee, Council of State Retail Associations, the Attorney General Citizens Advisory Committee, the Tax Policy Advisory Council for the Department of Revenue, the Advisory Board for the Employment Security Department, and several others. Sounds like you're busy, Mark.
Sounds busy, yeah. Wow.
And joining Mark today, we have Rose Gunderson. She's the Vice President of Operations and Retail Services with the Washington Retail Association. She oversees a high-performing team that provides a claims and risk management for their members and works closely with the association's government affairs team on policies that impact retailers. Her intimate knowledge of government regulations and challenges small businesses face make her an invaluable resource to support regulatory compliance. Rose has enjoyed successes as an entrepreneur in both the private and nonprofit sectors, as well as in policy research and advocacy. Rose has over 25 years in insurance, banking, healthcare, and 3 years as Labor and Industries Small Business Liaison Manager before joining the Washington Retail Association. Her education includes a BA in Business Administration from the University of Washington and an Executive Juris Doctor degree from the Concord Law School. She has been recognized by policymakers and civic organizations for her advocacy work to combat human trafficking, and when she was the Small Business Liaison at Labor and Industries. So with that, I am going to pull up the PowerPoint we are watching or will be presenting, and just give me a couple seconds to do that.
I just want to say thank you, Logan, for having Rose and I on today, and we look forward to sharing some information that we hope is valuable to you, and also serving as a resource for you in the future, and look forward to your questions.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. We're happy you guys are here. And there we go.
As
Wonderful.
I shared with you earlier, the last time I was in Pullman with the Tri-State Regional Chamber, it was when I was at my last job, joining the Small Business Forum, where all your city mayors spoke about how you all intentionally reach out to grow small businesses. I was very impressed, and I went to other chamber or my local chamber and said, why don't we have a similar small business forum? And people were surprised, like, oh, that's a great topic, but I still haven't seen one locally. All right, well, as retailers, as the Retail Association, we want to start with using data to support why retail is so important to every community. It not only is when you have retail stores, restaurants, it is evidence of social life here. It's where people gather and want to be out and enjoy the community. That's the life side, but on the other side, financial side, this is data I got from the Department of Revenue. This is the contribution of retail sales tax to the state level. But as you can see, the green indicate the brown indicates the overall retail sales tax that includes services and products, and then the green indicates the growth of product sales tax, which is the kind of retailers that we have members from the product sales side. You can see the growth from 2018 to 19 for different cities, and the overall growth total is at the end. Without retail, there's no government service. That's why I hope that Tri-Cities, and whether it's Benton or Franklin County, if you scroll to the next one, is Franklin County's sales tax. We want to emphasize the importance of it. I'm sure your local government knows, and for both Franklin and Benton County, I believe about a quarter of the sales tax goes to your local government. So if you divide this number by 3, that's the local sales tax your county or the city collect from sales. It is a very important part of the economy. And so go retail. Next one. As the Retail Association, we have been working very hard at providing safety operational plan when it comes to reopening under COVID. We have links provided here for you that you can go to the Retail Reopening Resource page. If you click on the blue one, and you'll be able to look at all the different resources that we provide. There is right at the top under the map of different phases of reopening. When you go to that resource page, you can scroll down. Thank you, Logan, for moving around. Go down a little bit more, and you will see right there, right to the right of the picture, you'll see the retail COVID safety operational plan, and also in-store posters, and you can follow the safety plan. And the first thing you're going to see, you go ahead and open that safety operational plan. There is a checklist that we want everyone to follow, something you do right before you reopen. Posters, PPE, and we're in the process of updating it with the most recent face covering information, hand washing, cleaning products. This is a checklist that you don't just use in the beginning of your reopening. You follow it every day and do the routine over and over again. So now we can go back to the PowerPoint. I'm not going to go through these all the points in the checklist, but I'm going to highlight some really important points that we need to pay attention to. As I said earlier, use that checklist every day. And when it comes to PPE, whether it's face covering or hygiene products, I think most people are aware that they're in short supply, so secure your source. I know many chambers or other resources cities and counties are giving away some of these for free. Another link here is the poster and signage. Logan, if you want to go to that, we have uploaded a variety of really useful, user-friendly, informative signage that you can download for your to put as signage for your bathroom, for your right outside of your door, anywhere you see relevant. As you know, face covering is very important right now. It's the strategy to stop COVID. We have a variety of them for you to download, and we constantly update this page whenever we see good posters that you can download. Go ahead and go back. Logan, you're doing a great job moving around. That's why we asked you to do this, because then we can focus on talking. Instruction to employee is a very important part, and we're going to focus on this a lot. There are so many scenarios that you have to deal with, whether it's handling transactions or changing room, or we're going to talk about the de-escalation tips. We encourage you to role play with your employees for different scenarios, especially when it comes to face covering. As we know, there are a lot of controversies, and we want it to be a success for you. So first, there's a face covering guidance. We combine several documents from the governor's office and LNI into one link so that you can look at it and reference it in the same document. When it comes to face covering, there are exemptions allowed. The governor's office says for people who need facial cues for communication purpose and maybe have hearing issues, they are exempt from the using face covering when they're talking. If there are medical reasons, they need a statement from the medical provider in order to be exempt for employees. And the link there provide different documents that inform you of the accommodation. When you go back to our retail reopening website, there is a link that is related to the ADA, American Disabilities Act accommodation, and conversations really in every instance that need an accommodation policy with your employee, have an individual assessment conversation with them, documented as part of compliance. As you know, the statewide face covering is now in place, and I think Mark is going to talk about that a little bit more. The statewide covering is going to have an enhanced version that the governor is going to probably announce today. So it's going to be statewide. It's going to be as strict as what is in place in Yakima. Because of all the controversies going on, we have written this de-escalating tips for uncooperative customer. The tips will include steps like training, role-playing with your employees. Tips are about treating people with dignity, apply empathy, see things from their perspective, listen with all your senses, watch for facial expression, eye contact. Well, you know, they're not wearing a mask, so you can watch their facial expression. Build relationship first, introduce yourself, gently express appreciation for their patronage, and ask if they're part of the exemption allowed by the governor's office. Offer an apology and say, sorry, maybe that sign wasn't that obvious to you. Explain the mandate and the policy that is part of compliance and the benefit of it, and offer them a choice. Hey, we have prepared some free masks for you, and have some fun pattern that makes it fun for them to choose from. This is a great opportunity to build a relationship, give them, you know, you can even do marketing, having a fun face covering, face mask with your logo on it, give it to them for free, and don't take no for an answer, ask them to reconsider. So it's a really good de-escalating tip resource for you. Another one is employee health screening is part of the requirement that the health screening needs to take place every day. Asking for temperature check, and you can have them do it at home, you can have them do it at work, and document it. Ask for symptoms, and also update the symptom list every now and then, because CDC constantly issue new symptom list. And so go to the CDC website. When it comes to health screening, you can do it through email, asking them to respond every day, have a checklist at the entry of your workplace. What we do here, we have a checklist and have people sign it every day, have the touchless thermometer there every day for them to use. It's important to know that when it's health information, it's protected by the ADA Act. It's not HIPAA, it's privacy, but it's regulated under the American Disabilities Act. But there's an exemption under COVID that you can ask for that information, but where you store the information needs to be separated from their personnel file. You should have a COVID health information file for all employees. Put it in there, document things so that if you're being checked or inspected, you have it available. And the instructions about the health screening needs to be given in the language they understand best. We have a different talking points, and we can give it to you if you request it from us. So those are the really key things to remember. And now Mark is going to talk about phase 1, phase 2. Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you, Rose. Great job. And special thanks, Logan, and the Tri-City Chamber for having us on today. Let me just start off first. Rose touched on this. Latest and greatest news, the governor is holding a press conference at 3 p.m. today. It'll be broadcast live on TVW, Television Washington, if you want to watch it. Indications are that he'll be announcing a mandatory statewide facial coverings, and that businesses will not be allowed to serve customers that do not have facial coverings. They'll not be allowed in the store, and they'll not be allowed to serve them. So stay tuned for more details on that at 3 o'clock today. This is in response to a number of counties experiencing higher than expected increases in the number of COVID cases. And so he's trying to clamp down on that by restricting people without facial coverings going into enclosed areas like a retail establishment or a restaurant. So your county is currently in phase 1, and also the governor is going to be considering an application, I understand, for you moving to a modified version of phase 2. Let's call it phase 1.5, 1.9, however you want to term it. I believe your county commission is going to be submitting that application very soon, as early as tomorrow. And so I hope that is approved and that you folks will be able to move to somewhere in between 1 and 2, which would be fantastic. A number of businesses have been operating in phase 1 for some time now, doing this very successfully. And something I want to encourage is, as you do move to phase 2, is that you don't, if you do try phase 1, that you kind of combine the two and operate with both. What I've been hearing from a number of retailers around the state and around the country is they're adopting procedures and practices in place to meet the consumer, meet the customer, however they want to make that purchase. So if it is with a curbside retail to go metric, then do that. If it's a modified opening where you have a limited capacity in your store, do that as well. If it's a delivery where they'll order by phone or online, and they want it delivered from the store to them, do that. So don't just discard one when you move into a next phase. I strongly encourage you to have the best chance at selling the most product, to adopt as many of these techniques as possible. I was on a phone call with the president and CEO of Lowe's, a very large retailer with 2,200 stores across the country and 310,000 employees. They said they have gone omni-channel, and they are servicing their customers in any way that that customer wants to be serviced. You can order something over the phone, and they will bring it out to your car when you arrive to the store and put it in your trunk without ever having any contact with the customer. And that's basically what phase one is all about, curbside delivery. So the first thing that you need to do as a retailer is there has to be somebody within your retail establishment assigned to be the COVID czar, or czarina as I like to call them. It can be a supervisor, it can be one of the leads, a manager, the owner, an employee, but you do have to have somebody that is the point person. As long as this pandemic's going on, you have to have somebody in your store that's a point person watching all of the regulations and communicating those to the proper folks within your establishment, all the way down to your employees, and that they are responsible for any inquiries that may come from the state or your local county health departments on are they following the proper protocols as required. It's a challenging job, I will be honest with you, because you've got federal, state, and local regulations and guidances coming down. And sometimes these guidances don't mesh. We've found that sometimes one agency doesn't talk to the other, and they issue guidance that may be confusing or contradictory to each other. So having somebody to help ferret that out is really important and required in a retail establishment. Next is the safety operational plan that Rose talked about. And this should be a living, breathing document that is constantly updated, because the guidance is constantly changing. And as you move from one phase to the next, your safety operational plan should change as well. This should not be something that is just put on the chalkboard and left there. It should be something that you check every day, multiple times throughout the day, to ensure that you're following this. When you're doing curbside delivery, make sure that the employees are very well trained and that they know exactly what is expected of them and how to safely operate to protect themselves and to protect the customers. Train them on what is expected, and once they're done being trained, have them either electronically or with a sanitized pin or a brand new pin sign off that they have been trained. I'm going to say this 3 times: document, document, document. You want to document that you've trained. You want to document that you've assigned somebody to be the COVID point person in your store. All of this will help protect you as a business and a business owner in case there are any questions or concerns or legal liabilities that may come forth in the future. So document everything that you can about the training, also signage, take pictures, write down everything that you are doing to comply with the order as best you can, because that will help protect you in the future. The transaction protocols, hopefully on curbside delivery, you're totally cashless would be the preferred method. You order by phone, you order online, giving your payment information over the line, and there is no money exchanged. If you do have to exchange currency at the pickup location, be sure and sanitize, wear gloves if you're handing cash back to a consumer. Be overly cautious. At the start of the pandemic, things were kind of loose and wild. Now everybody is watching, especially counties that are having surges in cases. So we're being very carefully scrutinized and very carefully watched. And the enforcement mechanisms are getting more and more strict. For example, the Department of Labor and Industry has 140 safety and health officers, inspectors out in the field now looking for violations. And their first goal is to educate and train and get you into compliance. and help you out to understand and follow the guidance to protect your employees and your customers. But if you continue to break the guidance and the executive orders that are out there, they have a cite and fine authority up to almost $10,000 per violation. So it's a really hefty fine if they find you in violation, or if you're willfully and with disregard for the safety of your employees, they can cite you with that huge fine of almost $10,000. So please follow it as closely as you can and work with the inspectors if they do happen to show up at your store. The safety of their employees is paramount to them and your customers. So do what you can. And then, try to think about what ifs and how to plan it out. On the curbside delivery, work with your local governments in your cities and towns and see if you can get areas. If you're a Main Street business in downtown, talk to them about designating a few parking locations out front of your store or near your store that can be specially signed and designated as pickup locations for your products. That'd be really helpful. And I've seen a number of cities doing this successfully. I live in Olympia, and our downtown has designated a number of parking stalls that are normally paid parking stalls. They put covers over them and put signs there saying, this stall is specifically designated for contactless pickup of products from local merchants, so that you can come in, text or call that merchant, say, hey, I'm out in the pickup zone. They will run out, you pop your trunk or open your back door, and they toss the product in, and you wave and off you drive without ever having contact with that business or with that employee. So a good way to go. And work with your local governments. They really do want to help you be successful. It's to their benefit, it's to your benefit, and do what you can to partner with them as much as possible. So let's move, and thank you, Logan, for advancing to phase 2, the reopening and having actual customers within your stores, which it sounds like if you're approved for this modified phase 2, that you will be having real customers in your store. And this is extremely critical that is done right from the get-go, if at all possible, because you are setting the tone for people returning to and their confidence level and the consumer confidence. There's a lot of fear out there right now. There's a lot of fear by a number of consumers about, if I go to a store, am I going to contract COVID? And so you need to make them feel as much at ease, and they need to see visibly with their own eyes that you've taken all the precautions and steps to make it a safe and enjoyable as much as possible shopping experience for them. Go out of your way to, as you're wiping down and sanitizing door handles, if you don't have an automatic door, go out of your way to make it as theatrical and visible as possible. Right before they walk in, have somebody come and wipe down the door handles, open the door for them with a set of gloves on so they don't have to touch anything. Fantastic. Have a hand sanitation station right inside the door or right outside the door as they get in, so they can put a little hand sanitizer on. If you can afford it, you're not required to as of yet, but if you can afford it, have a stock of facial coverings. I know a number of counties are giving them out. A number of chambers are giving them out. Have that ready. If you want, you can have a temperature checking station if you want. That's not required, but go over and above what is required of you if you can, to make that customer experience as best as you can. Have traffic flow managements within your stores. If you have very narrow aisles, it's highly encouraged, not required, but highly encouraged to allow social distancing, that you have one-way aisles. The grocery store I go to has pretty narrow aisles, so they have arrows saying, go this way, go that way. Most of the people are following those suggestions. It's very helpful. As a retailer, have signage out front of your store so that the customer knows what to expect when they go into the store, and that you're taking the proper requirements. As I mentioned, that sign is going to have to now say facial coverings required before you can come in and go shopping. So that will be on part of your sign. And that will be a statewide mandate for all businesses to have their customers put on a facial covering before they come into your place of establishment. Make sure that the management of your establishment, the owner, the manager, are setting a real good example and following the rules as well. Don't just tell your employees to do it and then you not wear a facial covering too. Put one on as a manager of that store and make sure that they see you very visibly throughout the day wearing your facial covering and following the social distancing, just like you're expecting your employees to as well. Clean anything that's touchable, anything that surfaces. Have a plexiglass shield between you and your checkout station. That is really critical, and that really does go a long ways in making the customer feel safer behind that plexiglass shield when you're only a couple of feet away from the checkout individual, the courtesy clerk. Try to make a payment. If they are using a credit card or a transaction machine, wipe it down after every single use with a sanitizing wipe or spray. And do it before that person gets to that payment station, so they see you doing it, and they will feel better about putting their fingers on it and sticking their card in that little machine. Go above and beyond. Right now in the state, most municipalities are not allowing for reusable bags. There was a huge push to have everybody bring their reusable shopping bags into stores. Well, now that's been suspended in almost all jurisdictions throughout the state, and they're putting it in either paper or plastic, depending on the location, to cut down on the transmission of the virus through reusable bags. So do what you can to make it as seamless and as comfortable and safe as possible for the customer and very importantly, your employees. Finally, I'd like to just say that we are not going to borrow our way out of, we being retailers, we're not going to borrow our way out of, we're not going to get grants enough to make our businesses successful and survive. As the retail doctor said on a webinar I was on recently, he said, we have to sell our way out of this. Bob Phibbs, the retail doctor, if you get a chance, I highly recommend it. He's a brilliant individual on selling products and how to sell it. And this is a new normal for us. Wearing masks is very uncomfortable for a lot of people. A lot of people don't want to do it. Social distancing is difficult. It's a real challenge, but we're going to have to sell our way out of this. So it's going to take your folks in your stores extra effort, extra training on how to service customers while wearing a mask and while not getting really close to them. How do you do that? And so talking that through with your folks and getting them to be able to close that sale, find the products that the customers are really looking for, making those additional add-on sales, those cost plus with them, all is going to make your business successful. And lastly, in phase 2, it says that you can go to 30% of capacity in your store, and that is the fire marshal limit for your store. So if you're at 100 individuals capacity by the fire marshal, that means you can have 30 people in your store, 30 customers. So the capacity does not include management or the employees. So those are not included in that 30. So you can have up to 30. Hopefully in phase 3, we'll be going up to a higher number as well once we move into that. A number of counties are there and waiting for guidance from the government to tell us what the capacity limit is. You may be at a modified limit in your county, in your cities, under this modified phase 2 approach once it's approved. But the full phase 2 is at 30% of store capacity. These capacity limits are different from restaurants and other businesses, but for retail at this time, it's a 30% capacity on that. So those are some tough tips. And I think the more we plan ahead as we move into, and the planning should be going on right now, talking to employees and getting them ready for moving into this modified phase 2 so that they're ready and that the customer and the consumer will have a good experience when they come to your retail establishment, so they'll want to come back. And that is going to be key for us dealing with this reopening and getting retail back up and running again. I'd like to finish there and say thank you, Logan, and Tri-Cities Chamber for having us. And I stand to any questions or comments that you folks have. Thank you very much.
All right, that was excellent. A lot of information, really important. And everyone who is watching, feel free to reach out to me, Mark and Rose. Or would you guys be okay if I share that with anyone, your presentation and the links in it?
Yeah,
Please do.
I'll make an announcement about that. Is that okay, Logan? I chime in right now about the announcement of the upcoming webinar we offered, especially for independent, smaller retailers.
Yeah, no, I see that you sent that. So I'll just go ahead and share that on our Facebook page. We didn't have any questions come in, so excellent job to you guys. And with that, just thank you both again. For anyone watching, feel free to catch up this. I know we went over a lot of stuff, so it'll be posted on our Facebook page where you can pause, rewind, fast forward to your heart's desire. And then we will also share the resources in that post as well.
I'd like to, can I just add one thing, Logan and folks? So the webinar is free for all. You do not have to be a member of the Retail Association. All of the resources on our webpage are free to any retailer in the state. And so please utilize them. Feel free to call me or Rose or any of our staff, and we'll be happy to help you. So we're not charging for any of these things. So feel free. If you need a contact list thermometer, I have a new source through the Association of Washington Business. They have some thermometers for free. Just give me a holler if you need one for your establishment. So we're here in this together, and we're going to make this work. So thank you.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you, both of you, for your presentation again. And we'll look forward to the next one. As soon as we have another one of these webinars planned, we will be sure to let everyone know. And then again, thank you to the both of you.
Great. Thanks, Logan. I hope you all have a great weekend, a great 4th of July weekend, and call us anytime.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Bye.